Our show is supported by viewers and listeners just like you on patreon.com/SAASholes. Brent Keltner's Winalytics Revenue Acceleration Playbook Masterclass. In only 8 weeks, help your sales and go-to-market teams start to build the mindset and skills needed to succeed in the new buyer environment. Weeks 1 to 3, read the book and learn a new approach through 20 successful company stories. Week 4, all go-to-market team kickoff and receive self-reflection questions and mindset self-assessment. Weeks 5 to 7, collaborative sessions with prospecting, sales, and customer success on the shared journey to a new mindset. Week 8, all go-to-market team presentation and discussion. Winalytics, build the revenue organization you want. Request a free 60-minute growth consultation at winalytics.com. Ask for Brent and say Big Pete sent you.
Hey, good morning.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you? Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, for anybody that's north of Los Angeles.
Oh my goodness.
You got any sparks going your way up north?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a San Francisco area, so.
I know north, but
boy, I know a lot of, I don't know anybody directly, but I know a lot of people who know somebody who lost their house.
yeah.
It's prevalent.
Well, we'll be paying for it.
I know. We don't do prevention in this country.
Well,
We don't. I mean, come on.
why can't we get rid of the brush around the houses? What's the?
Well, I know. That's agreed. But also, there's been some amazing tales of. There was a guy that I read about who 4 years ago was scared that he was going to lose his house. So he did his own, he 300 feet or whatever the distance was. But more importantly, he went out and he bought a generator, a pump. He bought a pump that'll fit a 2-inch, fire hose basically. And he sunk that into his pool. He put it in the pool when the fire hit. He used his pool as the water reservoir and then he put 4 sprinklers around out in the yard. And he saved his house.
Yeah.
And I thought, you think about that. People are paying already, $10,000 a year for fire insurance. This guy probably spent a couple $1,000 total, right? For a generator, a pump, a hose, and 4 sprinklers.
But I mean, you can't even get fire insurance because they put price fixing on it.
No, I know.
They
I
also,
know.
well, I
Yeah.
know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's a
It's kind of, look, I've said this, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but
be totally disrespectful. We're the SAASholes.
if you purchase a house in Florida and it gets
Yeah,
decimated from a hurricane or storm surge,
that's their own fault.
it is. It really
Yeah.
is. Right. I mean, come on.
So all the right wingers in Florida and all the left wingers in California, you both deserve.
Yeah.
I'm freezing my ass in Chicago, and you know what? There's a reason I'm freezing my ass off.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I don't want to be paying for these millionaires' houses. Come on.
It's everybody though. You know what I mean? It's all demographics. A lot of those people, the tragedy, because I live in an area where there's literally homes a couple miles from me that are 50 million and above. But there's also people living next door who couldn't afford to buy their home.
Yeah.
They bought it 55 years ago or for $22,000.
Yeah.
And the property alone is worth 10 or 15 million. But they don't have a lot of money.
No.
Right. So there's this huge, strange dichotomy of in all these places of it's not, everybody that lives there is not wealthy.
You got to have some kind of money, or you got to be, unless you're staying in somebody's house that you shouldn't be staying in. I mean, that's all money over there, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, anything on the hills, I mean, that costs money. I don't know how long ago, but the taxes went up. You got to be paying something over there.
Yeah, but in California, we froze property taxes.
What? I didn't know that.
Oh, like 40 years ago. It's part of our financial burden is that
Oh, no
it's
shit.
called Prop 13. We froze. Essentially, you've got people paying, they're living on a $10 million lot crappy house, albeit,
Yeah.
and they're paying a couple $1,000, literally like $2,000 a year in property taxes.
Holy shit. So that's why they're burning it all down.
So the only way for California to capture it in the new rates is when the house sells. Then it goes on the new rates. Hey, is Jamie joining? We got to ping him.
Yeah, what's up? He's probably working on the quotas.
Yes.
What a
Which
scam.
which
What a,
which will be really germane to our discussion today. I'm going to text him.
yeah, go right ahead.
You know,
What is he?
here on the thread. I mean, he pinged us like
Yeah.
half an hour ago.
Well, he's a busy guy. I'm sure he had a
That's
lot
true.
of last minute phone calls trying to justify quota here.
Well, I think he's going to we're going down an interesting path. That's why I think
Yeah, what path are we going down?
well, I think we're going to go down a path of setting quotas up more around getting new logos versus revenue
Wow.
for the year. I don't know. We'll ask Jamie. It'll be kind of a fun topic. I think that yeah, I mean as we dive in, like we talked about before the new year started about what's he saying here? Oh, he's on now.
Sorry.
What
I
the
was
It's
hell,
all right.
dude?
We
I
were
was
talking, you're working on quotas, aren't you?
our quota's out yet. Our fiscal year doesn't start till February 1.
Yeah. But you're
Okay.
behind the curtain.
So that means
You're
what,
you're
July?
manipulating the dials. You're part of the machine.
Uh Steve, if all things are held my way, we have kickoff
Oh, you still do kickoff? Why?
because they want to get together. You know what? It's more important, I think, now to do kickoff than ever
Really?
before because everyone works from home and no one sees each other.
Yeah, I think particularly for a small company. I was chatting a week ago with a cohort of mine um, who's at another company, obviously, large, 4,000 salespeople. And he's like, Steve, this is ridiculous. We've got 14 and a half hours of prep work. They're making us record the corporate, presentation, which nobody's ever going to use. I mean, maybe that's a good lead in for what you and I were talking about prior to the, close of the holiday season, which is, all of these talk tracks that companies are enforcing, so to speak, as well as sales methodologies.
Sales methodologies are a dying breed, right?
Thank you. Yes, let's kill
I
that beast.
I think they're going away because I think people, like everything, over-engineered, over-indexed on sales methodologies. Not that I'm opposed to a sales methodology as long as it helps the rep and it's not administrative work, but in most cases, sales methodologies have become more of administrative work. If you don't have a way to do it automatically with your activity, then why do it? If it's not giving a value to the rep. If it's giving a value to the rep, like more experienced reps, sales methodologies don't make sense because they've adopted their own kind of methodology and they're just gonna try to fit that into whatever scorecard you want. But
I always think of
rep
the
need a scorecard because they don't really have any idea how to sell, right?
there's a bit of a hypocrisy to the whole thing, right? So if you look at all the stuff that's posted, whether it's LinkedIn, doesn't matter what the source is, for the last umpteen years, people have been talking about, the voice of the customer and making sure that you're listening and you are, helping the customer shepherd them through sort of a purchasing decision. What I think's comical about that is and Jamie, you and I've talked about this. If there's three, let's say for this make-believe case, but there's three companies that have all been invited in, and they're all using MedPick, and they have lesser experienced people, and they all ask the same questions. How is that prospect going to discern the difference between the three offerings? It's crazy.
No one.
Yeah, Jamie.
Everyone sounds the same.
Correct.
So everyone's got medic, medpic. They all sound the same. I personally think that the only methodology that you don't sound the same on is value-based selling, because you're selling a value to the customer and what your value is.
Yeah.
Therefore, you won't sound the same.
Value-based selling? Isn't that like every sales call, or no?
It is. It's selling, but the
anti-value selling.
I'm with you, Pete.
I personally, my preference has always been find the pain in the customer and solve that pain, and don't try to solution sell or platform sell unless you are a solution or a platform. And everyone thinks they're a solution or a platform. The reality is they're.
I'm with you. I think it comes down to there's a missing portion of that, which is it's not just finding the value, it's discovering the person who's going to get off their duff and do something about it.
Well, yeah, that's especially in today's economy.
Well, right. Who's going to do that?
The rep has to.
So the chief revenue officer doesn't have to do anything, or the CEO doesn't have to do anything, or?
Well, I think where the marketplace is going, and I've got experience with this.
Going or gone?
I think in the enterprise sales market, the reps are going to have to come up with a point of view, come up with, kind of understand the pain. You should already understand it, generally speaking, if you're knowledgeable in a particular vertical. Then go vet out if there's interests from the line of business executives, and or IT in the case of selling tech, in exploring or moving forward. And if they push back on you, then take that data and that point of view and go to the CFO or go to the CEO. Because I think at large companies, more often than not, line of business executives don't want to take any risk. And I'll define risk as implementing anything new. It's not just about technology. It could be a process or anything. The only thing that they seem to like doing, and I'm seeing this from all my friends, they love reorging. For whatever reason, everybody in sales ops and sales, boy, do they love to retitle. And even this is the people that they love. And they're like, you are now
de-risk.
This is your new title. And then they make the announcements and they're like, John Smith has done such a sterling job. We're moving John over to this other kingdom. And I can't wait to see what he does with it.
They do love that.
They love that
That's dial. What corporations love to do. Why? Because when they're reorging, they're also getting rid of cost. And then the people that stay in a reorg are protected for 6 months, probably. Like, hey, you just
I don't know if they're getting rid of cost
and got a new title. And there's costs. There's games you play with accounting to make it so that the people that you've tagged in a reorg no longer hit your EBITDA. They're considered, even though they might stay on for a year. Like when you acquire a company, you've got up to 2 years to make action on a person. And if you tagged them beforehand, all of the costs over the 2 years are considered transition expenses and are not part of EBITDA. So even though Pete could be a seller and bringing in tons of deals, if I get rid of him after 2 years, I could say he wasn't part of my cost.
Gamesmanship.
When you get bought, like here's a voice for new people. When your company gets acquired.
Wait, what's a new person? Like how old are they? Like
or younger, like 30. Let's say 30.
Okay.
And your company gets acquired by another company. And they go through and get rid of 20% of your fellow workers. You're not safe until about 2 years. Because you could have been one of those people that they're like, you have no future here, but I need you now. And we'll get rid of you within the 2 years, and you're tagged at the acquisition. So all of your costs go to a line item, a restructuring line item, even though you have no clue that 18 months from now they're going to fire
you. Are those leaders, are they even going to be there in 18 months?
Your leaders are gone. It's the people that have acquired you.
Yeah. I'm talking even them people, are they going to be around?
Sometimes they're not around because they acquire and cash out. But I'm just saying, regardless, if you're tagged on that initial offering, it's not easy to bring you back. The reality, I've experienced this. The reality is, you almost want to let them go and then rehire them for a different.
Whatever. It's January. It's January 14th. Where's your quota gone? When will quotas come out for regular companies that don't
Company,
have a
Steve, you
fiscal
will
year in
have quota.
February?
Steve, you will have comp plans in your hand
Yes.
by comp plans will be en route to signature.
Yes.
The week of kickoff, at the end of kickoff, if not the following week.
But Pete, you're asking a more generic question, are you not?
But a more generic question.
Make it specific or generic. It's the same shit every year.
I would average. I would say it's average 2 to 3 months after the year starts. It's before the first quarter.
Especially this year now, because all right, the 20th, you got Trump coming in and stock market's cashing out. Do you think there's going to be any ripples on that, or is this all noise?
Personally, I think the economy's been so shitty for 3 years that I think we're on the final stages of all the enterprise companies are going to be struggling for the first half of this year because they didn't do a lot of action over the last 2.5 years, and now they're going to. But all the small and medium-sized companies are starting to come, or will start coming back in FY.
So you're saying June, July, companies are going to start.
June, July, the big dogs are going to start doubling down. If we don't see that, Pete, then just consider America, Japan in the 90s. We're just going to be constantly stuck in this motion of no growth called stagflation.
Stagflation, huh?
I don't know that I'll.
It's got to be.
Yeah, I think people will start spending money.
How are the credit limits out there? I thought the credit cards are kind of tippy tappy. Isn't that
Well, I think what Steve just said, start spending money. I think that being said, I know interest rates are not, they say they're not going to cut them or anything like that because of inflationary concerns. But I think money's going to start coming back to the private sector, and therefore spending will go up, which also means credit limits will go up, which also means people are just going to people are going to have riskier positions, or because we've got to grow.
Yes.
We can't be uber conservative across the.
I don't know, man. The bond yields are up at a point where even with Trump coming in, it's some ominous stuff that's out there. And you're telling me people aren't going to be ready till June or July.
No, hold on. Pete, what I'm telling you is the big companies,
Yeah.
really big Fortune 500. It's probably June, July time frame when they're going to start gassing.
Yeah, what percentage of the business are there? I'm talking about let's get to the medium-sized businesses where those
are doing fine. I think those are starting to do well.
they are. All right. Fair enough.
And they have more flexibility, but I don't think specific to tech companies, that's not where the money is. It's not in the mid markets and the large enterprise.
Uh, I'm just looking where employment is, and you got people looking for jobs in the economy. And I mean, are companies opening up their wallets yet? What I'm hearing from you, Jamie, is you're not spending any money till next third quarter.
I'm saying large enterprise are not.
Are you large enterprise?
No.
Well, what the hell are you, man? I'm looking at you.
We're a small business. We're a small startup.
Yeah, it's selling to the large enterprise.
We're a small startup selling to the large enterprise. We decided 2.5 years ago, we said, hey, and I remember when this decision was made, I'm like, the team in Silicon Valley, the world was coming to an end in Silicon Valley, and I looked at them, and I'm walking around Chicago. It seemed like the world was just starting to open up, And then I'd fly to San Francisco, and it seemed like the world was coming to an end. And I remember saying to the executives at the time, I go, guys, I feel like you're smelling your own farts. I go, the large enterprise, which is
Jamie, what does
Chicago.
that mean? I can't find that in Wikipedia. Smelling your own
Wikipedia
farts?
means you're group think. You're just talking to the people around you that all happen to be in this bubble, and you're just smelling
So all
that
the
the world,
sales leaders are smelling their own farts and all the sales reps are smelling their own
the
farts?
Silicon Valley tech space, yes. And then they said, hey, because they sat there and said, what we're going to do is we're going to double down and start going after these huge enterprise companies. And I said, the huge enterprise companies are fine right now, but by the time you sell a huge enterprise deal, how long does it take, Steve? 18 months?
About 18 months.
Yeah. I go, in 18 months, are we selling into their recession?
Yeah.
Their recession is going to hit them in about 18 months. And I feel like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I am feeling like
You were largely right.
I did call that we were starting to sell into that. And I said that's what I meant by smelling your own farts, is that Chicago is large enterprise, right? It's the banks, it's consulting firms, it's got all the Northwesterns, the University of Chicago graduate school programs. It's where the big companies come to find some talent to work in corporate America, and everyone does their MBA and analysis of the business and restructures and reorgs. That's where it all came from. Probably came from Chicago, because we don't know what we're doing besides academia. And so
can't do any worse in LA.
What did you say?
Can't do any worse in LA. At least it's burning
Yeah.
down.
But
We'll edit that out in post.
Yeah, let's edit that. But so I'm sitting there in Chicago, and it feels like everything's about to pop, like in a good way. And yet I go to San Francisco, and it's like the world is coming to an end. And I'm like, I agree the world was coming to an end, but I was sort of like, I think we're selling into their recession. I think that's what we've done. And I think that's what a lot of companies have done. And now the big companies are struggling. So now you're going to get more of the media saying the world is coming to an end. When the reality is, I think we're actually coming out of the recession.
I think so.
So you both are all in the stock market? Is that what you're saying? You have all that confidence?
Well, the stock market is already hedged that we are out of the stock.
Stock
market
is it?
Yeah, I moved most of my positions to more aggressive back in December. They're looking at it. The advice I was getting is we're at the tail end of the trough, so to speak, and there's a big belief that it'll start to push up.
Okay. All right, then my attitude is slightly shifted. So here we are, January 14th, and we can go look at all the old podcasts that we've done, and we've talked about the same exact shit. Same exact shit, Carney. Has anything changed? Like, what are the equity companies doing out there? The good ones and the bad ones. Like, are they buying anything yet? Are they at that point yet? What are the?
I think my personal take of what's going to happen this year is there's going to be a lot of acquisitions, a lot of consolidation that's going to happen in the first 6 months. I don't see any IPOs in the next 6 months occurring. I think it's going to be all the companies that have that are smaller startups and all of that have survived, and a lot of the medium-sized companies. There's going to be some that are cash rich that are going to be like, it's time to double down and start acquiring. So some of these companies that have been sitting back and trying to survive now realize that their cash is fine. They've understand their cash position, and they're going to go out there and start buying, which means there's going to be more money on the market.
I guess what I'm asking is the valuations. Are the valuations out there now? They were lofty for a period of time.
They're not lofty anymore.
They're not lofty anymore. So
No.
what is a good valuation? How many times X revenue?
I have no idea.
You're not going to see 30 times X anymore. There's two ways to look at it. You're either buying the tech or you're buying the business.
Give me a multiple. What are the multiples at now where it makes sense to buy something?
10, 15 on cash EBITDA.
EBITDA?
Yeah, you're not going to see the 30 times EBITDA. You only see things that are priced out of whack, meaning that if you look at the EBITDA, but that's not why they bought it, is if it's an AI company that has a lot of technology behind it, companies will buy those, and you'll be like, they bought that company hasn't made any money. Well, it's because they're buying the tech, they're not buying the business, right? And that's where you'll see the bigger sales come. The smaller sales that'll be more like 10 times EBITDA, 15 times EBITDA that once were 30 to 40 to even 50, those will be more like 10 times EBITDA. Those will not be AI companies, those will be business companies, and they'll have a consolidation because they're a competitor of another company. That's my take on the economy as it is today.
What are the hot applications that seem to be making money now that weren't before?
Well, if you have AI or security in your name, you're doing.
Well, I guess, okay, if you want to bring up AI, kind of what I'm seeing is, and
AI, not false AI. There's a lot of false AI.
what is,
I would say the majority is false AI.
what the hell is false AI?
They say AI, and all they do is buy a private, like a corporate license to OpenAI, which is a LLM, and everyone thinks a language model, a language learning model means your AI. If you throw an LLM on your product, you can call it AI, but it's really not
LL, what the hell does that mean?
Large
AI. It's
language model.
a ChatGPT.
As opposed to small language model?
No,
Like
is
what?
a large language model is a learning language model. It basically gives you the voice of what you're doing. But a real AI company is all about the data. And the LLM is just a way for people to interact with it.
Well, you're saying like a real AI company. You guys seen any of these out there?
I don't even know what that is. I can't see.
Yeah, what is it?
Is that a
Raspberry,
Frenchie?
Raspberry Pi.
It's a raspberry.
I have no idea.
It's here. Let me see.
Is this for your music?
No, it's an $80 the light sucks and I have light all over the place.
It's a fan.
It's a little $80 computer board that has Wi-Fi HDMI in it, and you can program your own applications to it. And one of them is making your own fake AI, Carney. And I see using stuff like this where Dropbox, storage, any type of storage, you can make your own network available system together where you can, have your own cloud storage instead of paying these $20 a month for two terabytes. But you have all these companies that are out there that you can make your own standalone security system. You can make your own
Interesting.
and it is very, very cheap. And I think this will be my laptop, be a laptop because let's see what we got here. Maybe your laptop's like really light, but there's nothing lighter than putting on a pair of these and walking around with a little box like this, and you're running your stuff. And I think a lot of that stuff is coming out there, and I don't know how that is going to affect going to the cloud storage. I think that would be something. Is there anything new? That's what I'm seeing in my end in the
That-
basement. Do you see anything on your end actually talking to customers and clients out there where they're building their own things like fake AI?
I'll jump in on this, and I think where the market's going to go. If you think about all the analytics companies, like a Cognos, Hyperion, Business Objects, so on and so forth, they've all they've all gone down this trajectory of they started with a general purpose data platform, which is really, really cumbersome and difficult for any customer to use. Those customers had to employ a bunch of data experts, IT professionals, a lot of resources just to get any sort of analytic output. So when I look at AI, I'm like, it's the old history repeats itself. I think the companies that are going to be super successful are the ones that do their own tuning of the AI for a specific business purpose, offer that to a customer base and say, look, who gives a shit whether it's AI or not? It's the output that you want. I'm going to sell you an outcome. This is the outcome that I'm going to provide. And spend less time talking about how the thing works.
Yes.
I'll buy that.
Because nobody wants to know how shit works, really. Yeah. No normal person wants to. Only people who have engineering degrees want to know how shit works. Everyone else is like, I want to turn it on, and it either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't, I'm going to chew somebody's head off. If it works, I'm happy.
And I think that's fascinating what he's saying there. So people don't buy companies in sales. Company don't buy pain, solve pain by knowing how the sausage works. No one cares, right? Just get me the outcomes that I need. And I think that's been the problem over the last year and a half to 2 years when selling AI, is everyone talks how the sausage is made with the AI and why their AI is different than someone else's AI is, why their AI is real AI and these people are fake AI. Let's be honest, most of it's fake. It doesn't really fucking matter. But at the end of the day, AI is just a way to get you a better outcome, and it allows you, like me as an operator, it allows me. I don't know, when I was at Career Builder, we had a gazillion and a half reps. I sometimes had a line outside my door of people asking me the dumbest questions that I'd be like, yeah, here it is, getting emails and all that. AI allows me to answer the dumb questions without having to look, because I can just say, oh, this is a problem that a lot of reps seem to have, or a lot of people seem to have. I can put my AI bot on it and monitor. There was at one point at Career Builder, and I know I'm not trying to talk about Career Builder in general, but there's one point at Career Builder that the whole tech, we had some huge problem on our site and everything was broken. And people are looking at it. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I got in there and in 3 hours, I was able to identify what the problem was and where it was. And we alleviated it. And then I had to fly and talk to all of the tech people how I saw that. And it was simple. And you could just throw an AI bot. Instead, we had a person that was monitoring if this issue ever occurred. They would literally monitor that every day, wake up and make sure that what this hiccup occurred until they fixed it, make sure it doesn't happen again. You don't need that anymore. We don't need people to do that stuff. We need AI to do that stuff. AI can solve the problems. At the end of the day, the outcome is you're not going to run into this problem again. And that's the outcome. It's not the AI. It's not the sausages.
I still don't know what fake AI is. If you say you have AI and you're not training it, like what's fake?
I'll give you my simple explanation. Yeah. So a lot of the bigger tech companies right now, who shall remain nameless. But
why?
Because we're partnering with some of them.
Oh, all right.
They're saying they have a sales agent. Like this is what, and they call it different things: co-pilot, sales agent, blah blah blah.
So Salesforce, are they doing 2,000 agents? Are they hiring for those positions? Anybody know?
They are. Fake? I know somebody that just got hired, or a couple of people that have just been hired. Here's the thing, though: most of the tech companies, the big established ones, are just taking a massive data set and they're letting the AI engine pull data, but it's not curated. So think about this way. Like there's been something called a customer data platform, a CDP. They've been around. Adobe has one, Oracle has one. There's lots of people that have it. Ostensibly, it's, hey, take your marketing data, your customer service data, your sales data, all this stuff, and then everyone can extract this data to better inform them on how to better serve the customer. I swear that's the same result and the same struggle that everybody's had with all the BI tools that I mentioned. Like, can you make them useful? Yes, but you got to spend a lot of money, hire a lot of people, and then if you're the consumer internally, and you want that technology to deliver a result, you're not going to get it unless a massive army of people tune it, tweak it, massage it to get what you want, which I think is horrible because if I'm working at a large company, I'm basically a hostage to those groups, which is kind of what they want, right? They don't want me to go buy something for pennies on the dollar that actually produces an effective result and competes with this pile of shit that they bought.
This is the way I liken it. When he just said, hey, I liken it because I agree with everything Steve just said. For those that aren't involved in more of the CDPs and all of this, for those people that aren't involved in that type of technology, I commute from, the Chicago neighborhood, downtown Chicago. If I'm going to take a commute, I'm going to take the L. The L stinks. It smells. It's got bums. It's got this. It's got everything. And I could sit there and say, you know what? I don't want to take the L anymore. I just want to drive downtown and park in the parking garage so I can avoid that and have a better experience, right? And the true AI companies 3 years ago would come in and say, here's a Tesla. Buy this Tesla for $80,000, $100,000. And I'm like, okay, or buy the Cutlass Sierra for $5,000. It works. It's 1988 Cutlass Sierra. It's got 155,000 miles on it, but I can get it for $5,000 or I can get it for $100,000. Now I go and buy that car for $5,000 and it gets me to and from. It makes it a much better experience because I got a CD. I can bring out my CDs and put it in and listen to the radio. Maybe I put headphones in. Maybe stuff doesn't work, but it's better than the other. What's happened over the last couple months or the last year, is the people that have sold the Cutlass Sierra have attached a couple cameras and put a new interface in that says now you're Tesla and you can do a self-driving car and it's going to run into every single car on the way in there because it doesn't have 500 cameras and you don't have Elon mode, but they're faking it, right? Whereas if I bought the Tesla in the last year, I could call up Tesla and say, I want whatever it's called. You're a Tesla driver, Pete. I want Elon mode. I want it to drive on my own. We can turn it on quickly. A true AI company had that capability from the onset, whereas all these other people are buying the Cutlass Sierra and then they're trying to attach all these cameras to it and make it into a Tesla. And
that works for me. I think that's a good analogy. Yeah, they're bolting it on. They're bolting on something.
On bullshit, and it doesn't work. So then you go, wow, I can make my car drive on its own. And next thing you know, I got into 5 accidents and it went 1 mile. And it didn't even get me to the right destination. Yeah. Now, Pete, here's a question for you. Do you ever use Elon mode with your Tesla?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I want to get a Tesla just for that.
Is that the one where you go to drive up to fast food restaurant and Elon tells you what you're going to order?
It's assisted driving. I mean, everybody is trying to pitch in their machine learning or whatever based on the experiences out there, especially the Cybertruck. But I think what's wild is it's not just the supervised driving that's pitching in, it's the computing power that is being harnessed of all of Elon's stuff to, in addition to his supercomputer. I think that's going to be something interesting down the road. Who is going to have the supercomputer?
Okay, go ahead.
You're a Tesla driver. If someone came to you and said, hey, I'm with Hyundai and I want to sell you a Tesla, our Tesla comparable, would you trust it or not?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. That's the difference between fake AI and real AI. Tesla was built with the mindset of always having self-driving cars eventually. The entire concept of Tesla was to use all of the technology and be the tech leader in this space. He has a moat around that that people are starting to compete in, but they are years and years behind everyone else, and they're faking it right now. That's the difference of what we're dealing with in the car space.
All right. So I also think within the AI world, there's analogies that are misapplied. So if we stay on the car theme, I think it's pretty cool because driving's driving, right? In other words, yeah, there's different road conditions, there's different things that you've got to accomplish, but you can cram almost every possible scenario into technology for driving. What you can't cram into any technology and get any predictability is basic human behavior. You cannot. And if you think about examples, like look at sports. Look at how bad teams are at predicting who's going to be a top performer. They miss it all the time, right? It's a fifth round person, fourth round person who ends up going to the Pro Bowl or the All-Star, whatever their respective sport is, they miss it. So they get caught up in sort of the physical properties of whether it's a human. Um, it's really, really hard to predict human behavior. And I still think this is why I love my profession of large enterprise selling. It takes humans with a lot of experience and a lot of acumen to go assess, Jamie, if I'm selling to you, do you have the chops? Or do you A, want what I want to sell? And B, do you have the tenacity, will, and firepower internally to get what you want funded and approved over the other shitheads that you work with if you're at a large company,
which is
right?
really the biggest problem today.
Right. And so I think that people are training salespeople on value props and pain, but the training, because I'm asking a lot of younger people, when has anybody that you've ever reported to or trained you talked about qualifying the individual to figure out, do they have the wherewithal to do what I just said? And the answer I'm getting back, by the way, is no one.
No one.
No one. Not one person. Nobody in my management team, nobody in the sales training that my company's made me go
Well, you
to.
also got to think
No
of
one's doing that.
all these younger. So when you're dealing with small and medium-sized businesses, right?
Yep.
Everyone could be a decision maker.
100%.
Yes, they're not always making decisions or deciding to buy something. But when you're dealing with enterprise level companies and enterprise level selling, um, that's never the case. There's usually a buying committee. There's usually a process to get that all done, even in larger middle market. The reason why I'm saying that is the younger guys and girls, the younger salespeople, aren't they're starting out in the small and medium sized businesses. They're proving their chops in the small and medium sized businesses. Where really, if you get to a director level and above, all of them could have the ability to buy, right? Because the company's small enough where somebody who's a director could be a very valuable employee to the CEO. Could have the ability to say, I really need this to get this done, and it can get done because they have access to that stuff. Therefore, when they move into the enterprise selling, it's a whole new world for them because there's buying committees and they don't understand that process because they think anyone who's a VP and level and higher has the buying ability. And the reality is, no, they either don't have the political ability to get it done, they don't have the chutzpah to get it done, whatever you call it. You know?
Chutzpah. Yeah.
Yeah. Or they're all the power goes through one source. You know what I mean? And so they don't get trained on it because them and usually their managers all made their money on being great sales leaders in the middle market, and they move to the enterprise, and it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, in the SMB and mid market, you're almost a personal shopper. So
Yeah.
people are saying, and I'm generalizing, but This is what I want to buy. We want to buy a new HR, if it's tech, right? It's a new HR system. We want to buy, a configure price quote. We've we've sort of examined what's in the marketplace. We've narrowed it down to 3 companies. Come in and duke it out. So a lot of those things that I disparage in terms of playbooks, methodologies, they can be fairly effective, right?
In medium-sized companies, not small because you want to be fast and small.
I understand.
Medium-sized companies.
Once you get above that, when you're talking about billions of revenue, tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 employees, and so on and so forth, all of that stuff goes out the window.
Agreed, especially in a down economy.
It all goes out the window.
If the economy's booming, I think it's fine, because when economy's doing well, one, all your warts aren't exposed. They've all got Band-Aids and cosmetics on top of it to make it look away. But when the economy goes well, all the warts are exposed. Everything that in your sales process that's broken, that was overlooked, is exposed in a down economy. In a good economy, I would say scorecards and all of that stuff makes sense, because it allows you to just know what you're supposed to be doing next, and where to go and stuff like that. And knowing that even if your process is broken, you're still going to get some wins, because people have money to buy, and there's more and more decision makers. But in a tight economy at the enterprise level, not many people have access to the decision makers. Whereas in a medium and small business, in a down economy, a lot of people still have access to the decision makers. And a lot of times those decision makers are having conferences saying, hey, we're looking at solving this problem. Anyone have any ideas? And even some low level person could be like, have you heard of ABC company? And raise their hand and say, no, tell me about it. And they're actually having that conversation. Whereas, like take Salesforce as an example. He's not talking, Mark Beninoff is not in a meeting going, hey, we're thinking about solving this. And some 3-year out of college person is in the room with him. No, it's not going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Right.
Jamie, I've been in solitary confinement for a year, and I just came out and I just did this podcast, and I want to see if anything has changed in the last 365 days of all the stuff that we're talking about. Has anything changed?
No.
No.
So, okay.
I feel like this last year has been a non-event in the business world. I think the problems that everyone has had at the beginning of the year are still the problems that they have today, a year later. No one has solved really any of those problems. And a lot of it is due to the fact that everyone's afraid to make any change.
Reactionary. They're playing defense, not offense.
Not even reactionary. It's not even reactionary, Pete. It's beyond reactionary.
Wait, what's beyond reactionary?
Well, because even though there's a problem, they're not reacting to it.
So do nothing.
That is what they're doing.
There's been like, wow, I see that problem. I understand the solution to the problem. I understand that you can solve that problem. By the way, I'm not doing anything because, one, I don't want you to try to solve it and it break. Or two, I just don't want anyone to know that I'm doing anything outside of what I'm supposed to be doing, which is, in a lot of cases, stay the course, make sure in the large enterprise, make sure my RSUs are good, make sure, everyone's going to retire when they say they're going to retire. And I want to make sure that people are coming back into the office 3 days a week and I'm buying them pizza on Fridays. That's kind of their purview of, I'm a great leader.
Let's talk about that. Are people coming back in the office? If so, how many days or no?
2 to 3 days a week, I would say.
I can tell you that what I've seen and what I'm hearing is that people are swiping the badge and they're looking around and almost nobody's there.
I can tell you that people are swiping the badge and their friends they're alternating days on swiping badges.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. That doesn't shock me at all. People get very creative, right?
Because a lot of these offices no longer are set up in cubes, as they're set up in Like they've turned them into like open working stations with coffee and stuff
That's
like
right.
that. So therefore you don't like, you can't walk by a person's office or a cube and know if they are or not there.
Yeah.
There's 10 floors. So they have people that are saying, hey, on Monday, can you take my badge and swipe it in and swipe it out with
Genius.
you? And on Wednesday, I'll do it for you. But there is, in a lot of cases, these large enterprise companies, there is a 2 to 3 day minimum in the office requirement that's getting put into place. Now, the reality is that's probably really, if you take, probably if it's 3 days, it's probably 2 days people are actually in the office because they're either calling in sick or whatever on their third day. My also understanding is it's usually Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah.
Why? Because Mondays and Fridays, they can have 4 day weekends all the time.
Yeah.
And then these
or they just don't want to do it.
Also, in these large companies, though, people are hiding, right?
Yeah. The other thing is Mondays and Fridays tend to be a lot of mandatory team meetings and things like that. And people are like, you know what, if I got to do a mandatory team meeting, I'll just sit in my house.
Yeah.
There's a consequence for this. Hey, along these lines, though, I think the younger, I'll define younger generation as maybe everybody under 35 or so.
That's young.
Had a lot of discussions over the holidays with some cohorts of mine from my past life who are heavily in contact with that age group. And here's an interesting dynamic. Some of them are starting to go to their pay out of pocket for their own sales training, individualized sales training. And when I inquired why, my inquiry was, I think I already know why, but I want to hear it from some of you. They're saying, because I'm recognizing I'm 32 years old, I'm on my third company. The profile of my boss is the same tool that I worked for, different name, different gender, it doesn't matter, whatever, just different over my last two companies. And I really, really want to become proficient in the large enterprise space because that's where the money is and that's where the fun is. And I'm not learning anything. And going to my MedPick training or my Sandler training, and having 4 days of them harping on pain isn't helping me navigate selling to a company with 100,000 employees. So I'll just pay for it out of my own pocket. And that's definitely an indictment of how poorly this is being executed in terms of progressing younger people's careers or knowledge, if you will.
We're making an assumption that knowledge is centralized. Sales knowledge is centralized. You go to YouTube, you want to learn how to do whatever, there it is. So if you're going to spend your own money, that means that, well, okay, now I got to finally have to act on what I'm learning here because I'm paying for it. It's not somebody else telling me I have to do it myself. Is that what's going on?
Yes and no. I think what I'm hearing is they're actually looking at this rationally. Like, look, there's a million people doing sales training, both at the group level and individual training. What they're getting smarter on is the realization that it's not just my presenting. So individual training's focused a lot on like prospecting, running a meeting, kind of really core basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the profile that I just said, they're 32 years old, they're on their third company, and they've had some success, but they're not where they want to be. And they're sitting there smartly saying to themselves, I don't think running a meeting better, and some of these other diagnostic things are going to get me a deal. And so they're seeking for a different voice. Because really the community, the sales community hasn't served these people well. And I think things have changed. Look, if you go back to like the 90s and lots of different periods over the last 30 years, people invested heavily in networking equipment and then they invested in storage. There's been these trends, which I think a lot of people who did well they did well, but they didn't really analyze why they did well. You know what I mean? So their self-assessment of their skill set was far above what their actual performance was. I mean, as old as I am now, if you throw a ball at 40 miles an hour over the plate, I can hit it.
Really?
Yeah, I can hit a 40-mile-an-hour pitch.
All right.
All right.
I know I can. At 65, I'm going to start whiffing, and God help me for what these pro players are throwing now, right?
I like to see a video of you at the batting cages. Do you have those in
Oh
California?
God, it's ugly. Yeah. I actually haven't done it since my kids.
65, I can still hit. I do it at the batting cages with my kids.
Yeah.
65, you can still hit.
To get above 65, I can't.
Yeah, that was 5-mile increments are massive, right?
It makes a huge difference. I think 65 is the fastest I see in certain batting cages we go to, and I'm like, I can still hit that. If I get a little bit above that, I get a little bit. I don't trust the machine.
See,
but right, it's more about people at the individual level and at the departmental level being accurate in terms of their assessment of their skill sets and where they are.
So these 32-year-olds, they're not going to be in sales anymore.
Well, so here's the question.
By the way, go ahead, Jamie.
Right, here's the question I got for both of you. Great sales reps, why do they become sales leaders? Why don't they just stay as sales reps all the time? You get more freedom, more on it.
Very few. I know I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying it. Very few sales leaders were ever great sales reps.
That's exactly what I was trying to get.
Very few. It doesn't mean zero, but generally speaking,
okay,
they were not.
So they weren't, but yet I agree with you. And yet we always lean on these sales managers to train our sales reps on how to be successful. And then those sales managers, some of them become sales trainers.
Yeah. I know where you're going.
And so what are we doing? We're basically, I would say, a sales leader. And by the way, there are some great sales leaders. I work with.
Agreed. Totally agree.
That have had huge success. When I worked with Pete, he was a horrible sales leader. I'm kidding. But I would say this. Pete, I will give Pete Pete's mentality was perfect. It was, I'm going to teach you how to sell, and you're either going to like sales or you're not. You're going to find out quickly under my purview. And within 2 years, you better move on.
Yep.
And so that was the right mentality, because he was bringing on droves and droves of people. But there's a lot of these salespeople out there that aren't getting the sales training that you're asking for. Why is it? Because average salespeople have taught them in the past, and those average salespeople are teaching them an enablement, and they're not hearing from the great salespeople. And in fact, a lot of times the great salesperson goes and does their own thing, or stays as a great salesperson their entire life, and realizes real quickly that once they make a sale, all the other salespeople want their time, and they start building up walls in their own company, and they're considered lone wolves and stuff like that. But they're only considered lone wolves because everyone wants to hear from them.
It's that you captured another thing, though. I love the walls being built up. The really great ones at large companies break a lot of glass. And so rather than complain about institutional bureaucracy, they find ways to navigate around it. They're kind of like they're like reporters who want to protect their sources. And so when the company's saying, because I've been through this, Steve, why do you get through deal management in 48 hours and it takes everybody 4 weeks? Because I'm breaking a lot of glass, right? I'm not following the prescribed process.
No. And what happens there? When someone who breaks a lot of glass doesn't have a successful year, they're usually chauffeured out the door.
Yeah, because which is fine. What I think's funny about that is
you're right-sized.
Is that they're more interested in following a methodology than success. A lot of them.
Agreed.
And they'll use terms like, it's not scalable, we can't have everybody doing this, blah, 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 blah.
I would say I would agree with everything you just said. The one part that I would say is the reason why this occurs is because there's 10 to 20% of the people, probably more like 10% of the reps out there that are taking advantage of their situation. I've had reps that have been huge producers in the past and then only to finally have a heart-to-heart, and they moved and are retired, and they just decided to keep the benefits for as long as possible.
Yeah, that's a bad actor.
Those bad actors cause the ops team and everyone to start trying to get control over everyone.
Yeah.
Because when one of those bad actors comes into play, what happens? They go to the ops team, they go to the sales leader and say, how did you not know that this person was not doing what you were asking them to do? And the reality was, I didn't. You know why? Because they're professional storytellers. They're great storytellers. And they gave me a story all the time that made sense. That's where AI is going to cut through all of this stuff and the data. Because now, for look at all that.
Boys, thanks for showing up for the SAASholes Podcast. This could very easily be January 14th, 2024, January 14th, 2023, January 14th, 2022.
I'm in alignment with you on that.
All right, boys. See you at the next show.
All right, take care, guys.
Our show is supported by viewers and listeners just like you on patreon.com/SAASholes. Brent Keltner's Winalytics Revenue Acceleration Playbook Masterclass. In only 8 weeks, help your sales and go-to-market teams start to build the mindset and skills needed to succeed in the new buyer environment. Weeks 1 to 3, read the book and learn a new approach through 20 successful company stories. Week 4, all go-to-market team kickoff and receive self-reflection questions and mindset self-assessment. Weeks 5 to 7, collaborative sessions with prospecting, sales, and customer success on the shared journey to a new mindset. Week 8, all go-to-market team presentation and discussion. Winalytics, build the revenue organization you want. Request a free 60-minute growth consultation at winalytics.com. Ask for Brent and say Big Pete sent you.